4 years ago, Dr. Skinner, the greatest genius in the world, invented a miracle medicine called Hapna. It was the ultimate painkiller that made humans completely immune to any sort of pain, and since it was cheap and had no side effects at all, it instantly conquered the global pharma market. Hapna became the medicine that saved the world, but then one day, Skinner vanished without a trace, and no one knew what he was planning. Unbothered by any of this, 23-year-old Axel Gilbert is currently serving a sentence of 888 years in prison for a whole lot of crimes. He doesn't seem to be bothered by it at all, and one morning as he is doing his regular gymnastics routine, the prison guard tells him that he has a guest. The guard leads Axel to the meeting area, where a middle-aged woman named Hirsch is waiting for him. Axel has never seen her before, so he asks her if she is a lawyer trying to get fame by helping him, or if she is a hitman sent to silence him. Hirsch tells him that she is a bit of both, but that is not important. She tells Axel that she is here to ask a favor of him, and if he agrees to help her, he will be a free man. Axel is curious about what she wants, and Hirsch asks him if he knows about Hapna and Dr. Skinner. She tells him that Skinner vanished 3 years ago, but now he is suddenly back and his single message has sent the world into chaos. Hirsch shows Axel a video that is simultaneously uploaded on every platform in the world, and in that, Skinner declares that if one cannot feel pain, he is basically dead. He calls humanity a dead species because of its dependence on Hapna, and says that he always felt that humans were a terrible species that focused only on short-term gain and destroyed their environment in the process. He declares that humans do not deserve to keep on living and spreading misfortunes wherever they go, and that is why he developed Hapna. Skinner says that Hapna was never just a painkiller. He had specifically engineered it to remain in the human body once it was consumed, and after waiting for 3 years, it would turn into a poison that would kill anyone without fail. There is no way to remove the toxin from the body, and humans will start dying after 30 days. However, before ending his message, Skinner says that he has a cure for Hapna, and if someone can find him within 30 days, humanity can still be saved. This video creates panic and chaos throughout the world, but Axel couldn't care less about it. Hirsch tells him that she knew Skinner personally, and in the past, he was truly a saint. She tells him that the favor she asks of him is to find Skinner, but just then, the prison guard arrives there to take Axel back to his cell as visiting time is over. Axel gets up, pretending to cooperate, but then he suddenly pushes the guard back. The guard draws his gun in response, but Axel uses his acrobatics to disarm, and then knock him down. He then picks up the gun and points it at Hirsch before the rest of the guards can do anything. Using her as a hostage, he gets the guards to take off his handcuffs and then makes a run for it, jumping over delivery robots and avoiding the guards trying to capture him. One guard grabs his legs so Axel throws him 2 stories below, and then climbs up another floor where more cops come to stop him. Axel easily beats them, and then jumps across the railing, going to another part of the prison to escape, but another guard is waiting there for him. The guard presses his throat against the metal railing, but then Axel pulls on his necktie, slamming his head on the metal and escaping. After knocking down a few more guards, Axel climbs up the prison walls and shoots the grills of an air vent to open a path for himself. He reaches the roof of the prison facility using the vents and starts running away. But Hirsch calls her driver Doug to follow him and make sure he is caught. Doug and Hirsch begin chasing after Axel in their high-tech car, and she orders their tech support Elena to keep an eye on all police communication and GPS in case they find Axel before them. In the meantime, chaos begins spreading throughout the world after Skinner's video was revealed. Riots have started in many places with people setting pharma companies on fire because of their anger at Hapna. Even as the US government and all the governments across the world gather their best scientists to analyze Hapna and find a cure. The hope of finding a cure within 30 days remains very faint. All the pharma companies recall Hapna from their outlets, and the global share markets fall terribly, but none of these things concern Axel, who is just chilling on the streets like he didn't just escape from prison. A cop suddenly stops him because of his prison uniform, but Axel just tells him that it is the latest fashion trending amongst youngsters like him. The stupid guy totally believes him, and by the time he gets a report about a prisoner breaking out of jail, Axel is already in a clothing store to get a fresh outfit. Meanwhile, in the city of Babylonia, a high-ranking government official tells Hirsch that they are trying to analyze Hapna, but even the collective efforts of world's best scientists are not enough in front of Skinner's genius. Hirsch says that their only option is to find Skinner, and she has almost assembled her dream team for it. but the last guy is currently on the run. She promises that she will find him by the end of the day, and the official tells her that her team might be humanity's last hope. A few hours later, as Axel is strolling through a railway station, the security cameras identify him as the fugitive, and all the screens immediately display his picture while telling him to surrender. He takes that as a challenge and begins running through the station, dodging the cops and security drones. However, Elena, the tech support, is notified about that, and she immediately contacts the rest of Hirsch's team about Axel's location. As Axel is out parkering away from the station, the biker girl Chris rides towards his location, while Doug goes to pick up Leland, the last member of their team. Axel jumps through buildings and rooftops, dodging and smashing the drones on his way, but Elena predicts place he will go in 5 minutes, and Doug asks Chris to be ready there. He tells her to steer Axel to the north, and tells her that she has the permission to open fire on him, and that is all Chris wants to hear. She waits for Axel to finish showing off his acrobatic skills as he reaches the roof of a building through a construction zone, and as soon as he is in her range, she starts shooting at him. She deliberately misses to make him run away from her to a place where Doug is already waiting for him. Doug tells Leland to support him with a drone and then climbs up a building. Soon, Axel reaches the rooftop of the same building with no place to jump to, and Doug points his gun at him, telling him to stop immediately. Axel puts his hands up and tries provoking him so that they engage in a close-range fight, but Doug already knows about his tactics. He tells Axel that his taunts won't work and asks him to surrender because there is no way out for him now. However, Axel tells him that there is always a way, and then jumps from the roof. Doug panics because he was not expecting that, but then Axel grabs Leland's drone and uses it to land safely on a truck. He gets on the ground without any problem, but just as he is about to escape, Chris calls out to him, clicking his pictures cheerfully. She acts like a fan, saying that he just gave the most impressive Parker performance she has ever seen in her life. She demands a selfie with him, and being a closeted simp, Axel can't say no to her. However, that turns out to be his only mistake as Chris stuns him using her bracelet, and Axel is knocked out cold. When he wakes up the next day, he finds himself in a barber shop with Elena hiding in a corner. Axel is confused about what is happening, but just then, the rest of the group arrives there. The mirror in front of them turns out to be a screen, and through it, Hirsch welcomes Axel to Team Lazarus, the people who are going to save humanity. Axel immediately tries taking off a bracelet on his hand, but Hirsch tells him that he can't take it off as it is a tracker that will let her know where he is at all times. Axel takes a quick look around the room and finds that everyone has a similar bracelet. He realizes that everyone here is some sort of troublemaker, and Hirsch tells him that this is their golden chance to turn from fugitives into heroes. She asks Axel if he doesn't want to be a free man and live however he wants. In response, he just does a handstand to surprise everyone and then jumps towards Chris, stealing her gun before she can realize it. He points it at her head and tells Hirsch to get the bracelet off his hand if she values her team. However, Hirsch is not falling for his tricks again, and she shocks him using the bracelet, making him drop his gun. She then warns Axel that if he tries to remove the bracelet forcefully, it will heat so much that his arm will burn. Also, if something happens to her, all of them are going to suffer the same thing. Axel realizes that she is not bluffing, so he quickly agrees to work with her, and Hirsch is pleased to hear that. She ends the video call from her end, and then Axel says that if they find Skinner, they should sell the vaccine for Hapna for a very high price. Chris agrees with him immediately, but Doe shoots down the idea, saying that they are not here for personal gains, but to save the world. Axel replies that being this timeline's version of Avengers isn't bad either, but before starting, he asks if anyone in the team has ever used Hapna. Turns out all of them used it, either as a medicine or to get high. After that, Doe shows Axel around their base, clearly telling him that he doesn't approve of him. Axel doesn't care about that, but he cares that despite being this world's Avengers, their base is a rundown barber shop. However, he soon finds that the rundown appearance of the shop is just a disguise, and it is protected by a powerful electromagnetic barrier. Next, Doug takes him to their garage to show the way to take out their cars, and then they return to do their first team briefing. There, Doug tells everyone about Skinner's life history from his birth to college life, but Chris interrupts him because she thinks that is the boring part. She asks Doug about Skinner's personality because that will help them find more about him than the useless trivia. Doug gets pissed at this, but he still obliges with her request. revealing that Skinner won the Nobel Prize 3 times but donated all the money to charities. He lived humbly and even abandoned the patents on his inventions so that everyone could get them for cheap. After that, Hirsch joins the group and tells everyone that Skinner was a great advocate for peace and equality. He tried to pursue the world leaders multiple times to do better, but he never got the response he wanted. She shows the team a video of Skinner addressing the United Nations General Assembly, warning them that in 3 years, the ice at the North Pole will have suffered irreparable damage. He asked everyone to focus their efforts on protecting the Earth rather than economic growth, but many countries left the meeting in the middle of his speech. After this failed attempt at convincing the world leaders, Skinner suddenly vanished. The team says that Skinner sounds too good to be true, and then Leland digs up some old social media posts where he was caught helping strangers around the world. No one understands why a good man like this is trying to end humanity, but Hirsch says that it doesn't matter. No one has any clues about Skinner's location since he vanished, and she tells the team that they must be the first ones to find him. Suddenly, Elena interrupts her, saying that she might have found a lead about Skinner. The rest of the group immediately leaves their base in their fancy cars, while Elena and Hirsch stay back at the base. Elena tells everyone that 8 years ago, Skinner brought a survival shelter from a company that cannot be reached through calls or internet right now. Hirsch tells Axel and Chris to check out the shelter and asks Doug and Leland to visit the company headquarters. She then orders Elena to access as many security cameras around the world and run facial recognition scans for Skinner, despite the possibility that he might have changed his appearance in the past 3 years. On one side, Chris asks Axel what he was in prison for and how long was his sentence. As soon as he tells her that he has to stay in prison for 888 years, Chris freaks out and pushes him out of the car. She points her gun at Axel, saying that she is not teaming up with a psycho who has such a big prison sentence. Axel asks her to calm down, and Chris asks what kind of horrible crimes did he commit to deserve that sentence. He tells her that he was initially sentenced to just 3 years in the prison, but it got doubled each time he broke out, and before he realized it, it reached the current number. Chris is completely dumbfounded on hearing this and asks why the hell did he break out of jail so often, and Axel replies that it is his hobby. On the other hand, Leland is curious about how Doug ended up on the team. He replies that he just did some small crimes that landed him in jail, and Leland says that he also did some petty thefts that landed him in trouble. Doug calls him a noob, and then tells him that if there is someone who really committed serious crimes in their team, it is Elena, who was a notorious global hacker. Leland doesn't believe him at first because Elena seems a quiet and shy girl to him, but Doug tells him that she is the biggest wild card in their team. Soon after that, Chris and Axel reach Skinner's Apocalypse shelter, and Leland and Doug reach the company's headquarters. They find that both the places look abandoned, unaware that someone is waiting to ambush them at the company office, and the shelter has already been searched by another party. Doug and Leland enter the company's headquarters and find that the computers were working recently. As Leland tries to search around the place, a man takes him hostage and asks Doug to tell him where their boss is. Doug doesn't understand what the man wants, when suddenly, a fat guy breaks into the building with his gun pointed at Doug, telling the owner of the company to come out if he doesn't want his employees to die. Everyone gets even more confused at this, but then Doug realizes that both the guys here are debt collectors who have business with the owner of the shelter company. On the other hand, Axel and Chris go inside the empty shelter and find that the power generator is still working. They begin searching each room but find nothing, so they continue their search, and then suddenly, they feel that someone is hiding around the corner. They find a man unconscious on a chair with empty bottles of Hapna lying at his feet. They immediately corner him and wonder if he is Skinner after getting plastic surgery, and Axel decides that the only way to find out is to wake him up. However, before they can do that, someone starts shouting in Russian and shooting at them. Axel and Chris hide in a corridor, and then suddenly, another group arrives there, yelling in Mexican and shooting at the Russians. Chris worries about what is going to happen next, but Axel starts enjoying himself. He shows off his pendant, saying that it is his lucky charm that keeps him invincible, and then runs right in the middle of the room, unbothered by the bullet storm. Chris thinks that he is crazy, but she has no choice but to support him in dealing with the gangsters and the cartel members. They manage to knock them all out and reach the guy unconscious in the middle of shelter, but just then, the D and the FBI arrive there to arrest their targets. They tell Axel and Churs to drop their weapons, but Axel tells them that he is from Lazarus and asks them to drop their weapons instead. Everyone gets confused because they have never heard of Lazarus before, and then Chris turns on the lights so that everyone can see what is going on. Just as she does this, the man in the chair wakes up and immediately falls on the ground, apologizing to everyone and promising that he will return their money back. He clings to Axel's leg, begging him to save him, and in return, Axel punches him hard enough to make him bleed. He then does an instant DNA test to confirm that he is not Skinner, and all the parties in the shelter are disappointed. It turns out that the guy was the owner of the shelter company who was hiding from the debt collectors in Skinner's bunker. On the other hand, Leland hits it off with the debt collectors after hearing their stories, and Doug receives a call from Chris telling him what happened at her end. He feels that the search mission is not going to be easy, but he has no idea how difficult it is going to get in just a few minutes. Back at their base, Elena suddenly finds a Skinner on a security camera footage, but then suddenly, thousands of cameras around the world begin showing Skinner's face at the same time, confusing both Elena and Hirsch. Soon, the rest of the team returns to the base, and they find that there are already 100,000 Skinners all over the world, and the number keeps on growing. Doug realizes that someone must have hacked into the security systems and swapped the faces with Skinner, but Elena tells him that it is much more complex than that. All biometric signs and even the thermal imaging of these people are like Skinner. Elena says that she knows only 3 hackers in the entire world who could pull this off, and she is one of them. Everyone is shocked to hear this, but Hirsch tells Elena to find the location of both the hackers so that they can find which one of them is helping Skinner. She also comes up with a theory that if Skinner is trying to confuse them by pasting his face on random people over the internet, it means that he has not undergone plastic surgery and he still looks like he was 3 years ago. Hirsch sends Leland and Chris to investigate Skinner's house for clues, while Doug takes Axel with him to meet his college professor who had worked with Skinner on some projects. Axel fakes his excitement about it and then begins complaining that he would much rather team up with the blondie than him, and Doug returns the sentiment. Chris and Leland soon reach Skinner's house, pretending to be workers from a house cleaning factory. However, a huge crowd has already gathered there, and the cops stop them from entering. Leland simply tells them that if they send them back without doing their job, there will be a cancellation fee, and he is going to send an invoice to them. The cops can't fight against the fear of capitalism, and they let the 2 of them enter the house. Leland and Skinner try to find anything they can while pretending to clean the house, but the only thing they find is a strange pill tucked inside a sofa. On the other hand, Doug finds no clue about his professor at the hospital where he used to work. He learns that the professor has retired, and some rumors talk about him going homeless. Axel tells him that this is his area of expertise, and he can find the professor if he is really living on the streets. He takes Doug to a slum under the bridge and tells him about a guy named Jerry whom he befriended in prison. They start asking everyone about Jerry because he is supposed to be the leader of the homeless community, but no one has heard about him. They tell Axel that their leader is a chick named Jill, but as it turns out, Jill is just Jerry after he decided to tweak his hardware and become a woman. Jill is really glad to meet Axel after a long time, and she immediately takes him and Doug to her place, where they ask her about Professor Claude. Jill stops them from saying more, because she knows that the people here have already suffered a lot in their lives, and they deserve some privacy. She tells Doug that she can't reveal anyone's identity or location without good reason, and he tells her a story about his college where he punched his racist dean. He was expelled because of that, and Professor Claude was the only one who stood up for him. Doug says that he never got to thank him properly for that, and Jill decides to take him to the old man who is struggling in a game of chess. Doug supports him and helps him get a checkmate in 2 turns, and Claude recognizes him as one of his old students. While they decide to catch up on lost time, a teenager challenges Axel to a game of basketball to hustle some cash from him. Professor Claude takes Doug to his tent, ashamed of how far he has fallen, but that doesn't concern Doug. He asks the old man if he knows anything about Skinner's location, and he replies that they have not talked for years. He tells that while Skinner appeared like an honorable genius to the world, in reality, he was so obsessed with his research that he became blind to everything else. Claude says that he couldn't keep up with the madman, so he cut all ties with him, but he remained jealous of his talent and achievements. In order to outdo Skinner, he faked the results of his experiments, and when the university found out, they fired him, which is how he ended up here. He suddenly remembers that Skinner once talked at length about the baklava his grandmother made, and how she lived in a small village in Istanbul. Claude doesn't know if the woman is still alive, but that is enough for Doug to count this mission as a success. He gets up, thanks Claude for standing up for him in the past, and then leaves to find Axel, who has been humbling the arrogant teen for the last 15 minutes. Seeing the look on Doug's face, Axel realizes that he got a clue, and they leave to their base. Once they reach the base, they try searching for Skinner's grandma, but there is no information about her online. Doug suspects that it was erased intentionally, but there is no way to prove that. Suddenly, Elena finds a suspicious location where the crime rate is quite high, but no security cameras are active there. Doug thinks that it can be the place where Skinner is hiding, but Leland and Chris think that it might be a trap. Axel says that the only way to find the truth is to go to the place, and they take the Hyperloop to Istanbul. Axel and Leland go to the field, and the Delulu teen dresses up as a sheikh in order to blend in but stands out even more. Axel doesn't care about that because it only makes his plan of creating trouble and getting attention easier, and soon they are surrounded by a local gang. Axel tells Leland that they need to run, but he finds it difficult to do that in his long flowing gown. Axel comes to rescue him and knocks down a couple of guys before pulling him along. He climbs on a moving bus and then jumps over the tin roofs to escape, but Leland has never done anything like that before, and he falls through a roof, right into the room of a girl playing with her dolls. The dumb girl thinks that Leland is the prince of her stories and invites him to play with her, but then the gangsters come there looking for him. They try to take off his bracelet, thinking it is an expensive watch, and when it doesn't come out, they get ready to chop off his hand. At the same time, Axel also starts looking for him, but then Leland screams that he was just here to eat Grandma Belinda's baklava, and that causes the gangsters to immediately stop their attempts to cut his hand because they know that the old lady's pastries are to die for. The gangsters safely escort Leland and Axel to Belinda's place, and she gives them their share of baklava to send them on the way. She then invites her guests inside, trying to explain that the boys from the hood are just misguided and not bad people. After that, she gives them her famous baklava, and they realize that it is really the best in the world. She then asks them who they are, and Axel decides to be honest with the old lady. He tells her that they are secret agents, and Belinda turns out to be a Bond fan. She accepts the story that Axel tells her and asks if they are here to ask about her grandson. She says that it has been years since she saw him or talked to him, and she never made any attempts to keep their connection hidden as well. She starts telling the boys about her grandson fondly, and then Leland notices a peculiar flower variety that is found only in some special parts of the world. Belinda tells them that Skinner gave it to her in the past. She also tells them that he sent her a video message 3 years ago when he disappeared, and then decides to show it to them. The message has nothing special about it, and Leland says that Skinner doesn't look like the kind of guy who would one day commit the worst massacre in human history. Just then, Belinda tells them that she has got a new batch of baklava ready, and while Leland loses his focus on hearing that, Axel begins looking around the room. He is sure that there is a video camera somewhere in the house because Skinner would know people would come to see his grandma, and he would want her to be safe. He quickly finds the camera and tells Skinner to remember his face because he is the guy who will bust ass. At the same time, in the Lazarus headquarters, Elena finds the trace of one of the hackers, and she decides to return to her glory days to catch him. Soon, the rest of the team assembles at the base, and Hirsch tells them that the hacker they are looking for is called Dr. 909. Cyber cells all over the world have failed to locate him for years, but Elena managed to find his hidden crypto wallet's details. She explains that there have been some shady transactions in the wallet recently, just before Skinner appeared with his message. A large amount of money was deposited in Dr. 909's account by a stock trader named Sam, and everyone is surprised because the amount is quite big by any standard. Hirsch says that Sam owned some Hapna stocks that he sold just before Skinner's message.